What's up, folks at home? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna head underwater and we're gonna check out some new and non-traditional baits that I love to throw on the drop shot. Hey, let's check it out. We'll see you out there. Okay folks, there's two things we want to consider when we're fishing a drop shot bait. The first is horizontal presentation. Number one, you want a bait that sits perfectly horizontal in the water and doesn't fall up or fall down because it looks unnatural, right? A lot of worms do this and do a good job, but a lot of them don't. A lot of guys fish drop shot baits that have no horizontal action on them, and therefore they're not going to get as many bites. Number two, when we're fishing a drop shot, we want to consider the secondary action that a bait has. So your primary action is the action that you're giving the bait. A lot of people overfish a drop shot and it shows in their catch rates, and it's going to decline because of that, right? Now, the post-spawn time period is one of my favorite times to fish a drop shot because fish are in transition. They're also funky from getting everything thrown at them and all the bluegill and all the stuff that were bothering them during the spawn. This is one of my favorite times in northern natural lakes to fish a drop shot to inherently generate more bites. Plus, you can fish these deep, you can fish these shallow, you can fish them everywhere and in between. A lot of the baits that we're going to look at today are baits that I fish on transition areas or sand spots, a lot of different areas. It's kind of like junk fishing deep, if you will. But let's take a look at some of the baits that I throw underwater, where I throw them, and the situations that I'm throwing them in. So it's gonna be fun. Let's check it out. Okay, up first we have the Rattle Worm 4.5 in pearl and ice colors. And anywhere there's bait fish, if you're seeing bait fish schools out deep, this is the bait that you want to throw. One, that white and pearl color is mimicking bait fish perfectly. I'm throwing this on an owner 1/0 drop shot hook. Most of the time I'm going to throw between an 1/8 and 3/8 ounce drop shot depending on how deep I'm fishing. I like to go with the lightest weight possible. The thing that makes the Rattle Worm great here is it's neutrally buoyant. It has that great horizontal profile, and it's got a rattle in the bait already. So what it's going to do is shake and rattle while giving off that minnow profile. That horizontal position is key. You can see it right there, holding that position. Those subtle rod movements and that secondary action and that skinny tail make it a great drop shot bait. In terms of where I'm going to fish this bait, I'm going to fish this around bait fish schools. A lot of times bass are moving in transition. They're following those bait fish schools. They haven't set up on their summer haunts yet. So this is a great bait to kind of chuck and wind drop shot while. Think of it as basically flipping underwater. A lot of guys go down the bank and they flip. Basically, you have an 8-foot radius of effectiveness on a drop shot. This is one of those baits that I'm going to flip at these weed clumps and sand spots in 8 to 12 foot of water as I roll through there finding fish. Up next is a bait that I really have a lot of confidence in. A lot of times this time of year you can throw a really big worm on a drop shot. Here is the Baits Quiver 6.5 in green pumpkin. And this is a very, very, very active bait. You can see it here on the underwater. This is one that I'm going to cast really far with a 3/8 ounce weight and kind of hop and swim back to the boat. One, because it has really responsive action, but two, because it's a big profile bait. A lot of times guys think drop shotting is only a 4-inch worm or only a tiny worm. Nope. You can throw a huge worm on a drop shot and those fish will inhale it. Now, it's got a fall on it. It's going to fall. A lot of times you can kind of dead stick this bait in deep water and let it fall and then hop it back up, get it active, and then let it fall. Got a really good horizontal presentation, but it looks really good. So if they're biting the big worm, this is what I'm going to throw. If they're biting a small worm, I'm going to start with that Rattle Worm 4.5. Up here is another one that I like to mix in for smallmouth. It is a nice lure. It is a local lure to northern Indiana, if you will. It is a Poor Boys Baits Erie Darter, and it is a staple on the Great Lakes. It's a staple in a lot of northern lakes. It's a bait that I have a lot of confidence in. It's great on the fall, but it is a negative action bait, meaning that it falls. So if fish are more oriented to the bottom, this is the lure that I'm going to throw. The only downside to the Erie Darter is it tends to fall. Next, you have an unconventional drop shot bait in the Bellows Gill Geek Rack. This is the 2.5 version. You can see it's very active. It's got a nice profile. If fish are feeding on sunfish, this is the bait that I'm going to throw. The Geek Rack is a bait that generates a lot of bites. It also is a very, very unique bait on a drop shot. It's not something that they're used to seeing. It's very active. It's got a nice whip on it, and it's just a bait that I'm going to pitch into these different weed beds and different things to generate a bite. Now, fishing with Caden a lot has taught me that the beaver is more than just a flipping bait. I've watched Caden fish this bait in 40 feet of water and catch bass. It's just one of those baits that the profile is right, and it looks really, really good on a drop shot, also weightless. And you can see here is that it's got that all important horizontal presentation. You can cut this bait in half long ways and fish it on a drop shot. It looks like a half shell. You can fish this bait whole. This is the Berkeley Power Flappin' Hog, and it looks really, really good. Now, one secret that I'm going to share here too, the tube. This is a Strike King coffee tube. The tube on a drop shot is an underserved bait. If I'm in standing weeds or around smallmouth, the tube is going to get the answer. A lot of times fish don't want to come down at this point in the year to eat baits. You want to keep it above the weeds and keep it active. The tube on a drop shot is a fire bait. It's one of those baits that I don't tell a lot of people that I drop shot, but it's one of those things that's generated me a lot of bites. I can go to Max and Cookie and throw this bait and probably catch 50 bass in a day throwing tubes, whereas other guys are throwing that bottom contact bait and kind of struggling. It's just another way to present that lure in a way that bass don't normally see. I really enjoy drop shotting a tube because it is very active and it has that nice spiral fall on it, but it's also a bigger profile that fish aren't normally used to seeing presented in this way. It's one of those things that I love doing. Folks, the things that make a great drop shot bait are baits that are neutrally buoyant, that sit horizontal in the water. You can see the Rattle Worm had a great float in that water, that nice horizontal presentation. Those other baits that I'm throwing, the Geek Rack looked fantastic. That power bait Jester looked great. That other power bait Flappin' Hog looked amazing, right? One bait that really surprised me was the Quiver Worm by Missile Baits. I throw Missile Baits drop shot baits all the time. The Bomb Shot is fantastic. The Ned Bomb is fantastic. That Quiver Worm is a huge profile for a drop shot worm. I'm gonna catch a lot of big fish doing that in this post-spawn time period. Anytime that you can drop shot, you're gonna catch fish. It's one of those techniques that literally will catch fish anywhere, any time of the year. You just have to throw the right bait and throw it in the right situation. Guys, we hope you enjoy what's going on with the channel. Give us a like, subscribe, follow. Head to Omnia to pick up all these baits. Head to Rattle Worm, check out that. If you wanna buy some Rattle Worms, we have a discount code right now. Use Bass Insights, all lowercase, right here to get free shipping on baits from Rattle Worm. Help us out, support the channel, buy some baits that we believe in, buy some baits that are gonna catch you some fish. We'll see you out there next time, guys.